So, welcome to Coffee and Dreams with Jodi and Friends. I am very excited. This is season 2, and I am excited to have one of my dear friends on, Christal Bowlby, who she was part of the very beginning of Coffee and Dreams. And so when I sent her a message, I forgot how much she is an expert in this area on stimulus. And I've been trying to follow it a little bit, but not as much. So Christal has been nonstop up to her eyeballs getting ready for all of this. So I want her to Christal, maybe you can just share a little bit about your background and kind of your experience with this stimulus and just your experience in general, and then we'll kind of go from there, and what you do and if there's ways that people can reach you, if you have an email or something, if that's something that for certain services that you offer.
Sure. I am a mortgage broker. I've been in the banking and broker business since 1996. I was a realtor before that, a property manager before that. So I've been doing this for a long time. I started my brokerage 2 years ago. Prior to that, I had worked for some large banks, for Chase Manhattan Bank, and I was a district manager for GMAC. And your question, it just makes me giggle a little bit about my knowledge in this stimulus package. I think I'm probably pretty knowledgeable for what we have out there, but it's all new, so it's changing every day, all day. But I have a lot of good information. I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there right now as well. So I think this is an important call to help everybody understand what is available, where we're at today. I think we're going to see some changes as time goes on as well. But right now I'm going to share as much as I know. So.
Awesome. And when you say what I think would even be helpful, and I honestly, I am so appreciative. Christal's had a very, very long day on learning about all of these programs and some of the things she's going to be doing to help with the SBA loans and all of these things. So she's doing an extra special favor just because she has such a massive heart. We have very similar backgrounds, and she has a big heart to make sure that people get the right information. Both of us have been in these industries for a very long time, and we unfortunately see that there are people out there that try to take advantage of this. I've already caught a couple of scams in emails coming in, and so that's where all of this came so fast for me to start to put all of these these Coffee and Dream recordings for season 2, because I thought, what can I do to help? And I know a lot of different people that have different expertise. So with Christal, ours probably isn't going to be this heartfelt ones that we've done before, because I really wanted to leverage her expertise in this. And as I even talked to her, she was giving me some answers. So maybe, hi, Brandy. Good to see you. Hey, I'm going to put you on. Can you put yourself on mute until we open it up for questioning? That would be awesome. Are you there? Okay. So, Christal, can you start us from the beginning then? Because I'm calling this kind of 101 stimulus, because we've all been seeing a lot. I'm going to tell you my perspective just from where I've seen it, and probably where most people have. We've been seeing everything go down. Things are changing on a daily basis, and we've seen these packages that they've been putting through. So when I hear you say it's changing daily, what does that mean for us? Are they going back and approving certain things, or is it just the execution part?
A lot of it's the execution part. Some of it is the terms, but that really applies more to the SBA loan. So I think you and I said tonight we're going to stick to just the individual stimulus package, which is basically anybody can apply for that. You don't have to be a small business or have anything to do with a business. I think most people have heard that there's an opportunity to receive $1,200 and then $2,400 as a married couple. With that, there are income limits, and then there are some different rules if you're over those income limits. So do you want me to go right into that, or?
Yeah, just go in, girl.
Okay, so basically, if you are an individual, you can make up to $75,000 and you can receive $1,200 as an individual. If you have children, you can receive $500 for each qualifying child. The strange thing is they say qualifying child, but they don't give the actual specifics what that means. So we're still waiting on that. I would say it's probably going to be how you file your tax returns and what children you call dependents is probably how they're going to look at a qualifying child. If you're a couple, a married couple, you can receive up to $2,400, and the income limit for a married couple is $150,000. If you are over those limits, then they will reduce the amount of the stimulus amount by $5 per every $100 that you are over those thresholds. So it's really quite easy. It's just basically you have to file your tax return, or if you didn't file your 2019 tax return, they will go off your 2018, and there is an automatic payment that they're going to make to you. They're going to also go off of whatever you had on your last tax return. So if you receive direct deposit, whatever banking information they had on your last IRS direct deposit, that's what they're going to use. So if that's wrong, then you're going to need to give them the new information.
Okay, so can you give me a little more, can I ask you a couple questions then regarding that? So if I didn't file my 2019 tax return, because I've heard that we can extend it, right?
And the extension is July 15th, just in case you didn't know that, yeah.
Okay, so it's and that means that if you don't owe, then it's probably, a lot of people are probably filing, I'm imagining. But if you think you're going to owe, which that's me and my husband, so we are waiting because we're like, okay, great, that'll be, that's one more thing we'd have to pay right now. So they're extending it. But what I've gotten a couple questions with is, what if you didn't file? We'll take it one question at a time. The first is, what if you did not file in 2018 or even 2017? What if you haven't filed your taxes?
You have to file. You have to file to receive this particular amount. So if you think you owe more in 2019, you can file 2018. I have not heard anything about filing prior to that, so it's just either 2018 or 2019. but you would have to file one of those, and they will allow you, if you haven't filed them, they will allow you to file them now, but you do have to have them filed in order to receive that part of the stimulus package.
And would you have to, if you owe something, are you going to have to pay that in order to get the stimulus?
There's nothing that I've read that said that. So of course, you want to ask the IRS, but what I would say is most likely you could probably work with the IRS to set up a payment plan or something like that. But I don't believe they're going to take it right away, but that's something you would need to call the IRS direct and ask.
Now, what if somebody, I've heard of people that are either on disability or exempt and they've said they don't file because they never owe money. Is there anything you know regarding that?
You can still get it if you are on Social Security or like the railroad, I think it's called RBB 1099. You will still be able to get the same amount.
Okay. And so is there a minimum that you had to have made for the year in 2018?
No.
I heard somebody say 7,500. That's why I was wondering.
I haven't seen that anywhere. I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm not saying there isn't possibly something out there, but I've received my information right from the IRS and from the Treasury site, so I haven't read anything or seen anything like that.
Okay. Okay. But the maximum, now that's my next question. If they do receive it, is this going to be taxable on 2020's tax return?
That's actually still debatable. We've seen a lot of different information and they've talked about showing it as a gift, which would actually be taxable, but that is still undecided. It's not clear yet.
Okay. I had one of my friends that couldn't be on. She asked me to ask that question. And I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I didn't think about that. Okay, so that one is unknown right now.
Yeah, and we've actually, in a lot of the documentation I've read, that question has come up, and I haven't read a straight answer yet. And I apologize. There's a lot of questions that we all have, and we're trying to get answers, but that's why I say things are changing. It was put out really quickly, and that's what happens when we have something like this put out quickly, and there is room for questions. So I think it's great that they're doing it, but there are a few things that we're still working out. So
okay, awesome. So that goes, so you said that when they hit over the limit, like it was 75,000 for an individual, or 150,000 for a couple. A married couple? It's reduced down, but they do get some. Is there a cap? So if they
if they're over those thresholds, yeah. Yes. It would be reduced down by $5 per every $100 that they're over. And I believe the limit is if they are a couple with no children, once they reach 198,000, they wouldn't get anything.
Okay.
If that was their income limit.
190,000?
198.
Okay. But between okay. And between 150 and 198, did you say 650 each?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So between 150,000 and 198, what is the dollar amount they would get as a married couple?
$2,400. Well, I'm sorry, it would be, they start with the $2,400, but then they reduce it $5 per every $100 that they're over the 150,000.
Oh, that's interesting. I have not heard it.
So
Like
the way,
I
yeah, it says the salary caps according the checks would decrease incrementally at well, this says 5%. I don't think that's right. Or $5 per $100 in income above the thresholds of the 75,000 or the 150,000 for a married couple.
okay.
And then at 99,000 for an individual with no kids, basically they wouldn't get anything. And at 198,000 for a married couple with no kids, they wouldn't get anything. That would be the point that
Okay.
the incremental decrease would stop.
So I guess that would be where if you made more money in 2018 and you had not filed your taxes, and maybe in 2019 it was a really lean year or a challenging year, it would be in people's best interest to maybe look into filing their taxes, because then they will use that income.
Right. Yeah, you definitely would want to go with the lesser tax return, lesser
Okay.
income.
Yeah, that's I mean, for the people that are losing their jobs and things like that, that maybe did make money in those tax years, that's I mean, that's a higher cap, but I guess I was expecting it to be a little higher than that, but I guess it is because it's kind of a blanket stimulus. So it's 99,000 is the cap for an individual.
To get something, yes.
Yeah.
But for the full 1,200, it's 75,000 for an individual.
75,000, and they reduce it. And then for a married couple, the is 150. You'll get the full amount.
Up to the 198, and then there wouldn't be anything.
Yeah. Now, will you still, if they have children, would they still get the 500 per kid?
Only, I guess it would also be reduced by that. See, this is where those questions come in. It says 198,000 married couple, no kids.
Okay.
So I believe that the $5 incremental deduction per 100 is also considering the kids between 150 and 198.
Okay.
After 198, there's just nothing left. So.
Okay. And then, okay, so I've got that part. That makes a lot of sense. But so how do they make the decision on kids? Because I've heard this question, because some people, one has full custody, one, especially for people that are not married or separated or divorced. Have you heard anything on that?
Well, we're trying to get clarification. That's one of my big questions. I believe what they're going to do is go off of how they're filing on their tax return. So
Okay.
what dependents they're showing on their tax return, and who would claim them on their tax return.
Okay, so whoever shows on the tax return. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, here is another question. So when are they expecting for these checks to go out?
Well, originally what they were saying is by filing within 3 days, they were going to have a direct deposit, but I would say it's going to take, when they say 3 days, that would be from the point that the application gets approved. So the application could take a few days, 7 days to get completely through. So
hold on, I'm confused then. This is a really good question. I have heard that you don't have to apply for anything to get it. You're saying we have to apply?
well, I'm sorry, when you're putting your direct deposit information in, it would take 3 days from that point. If you're putting in your banking information, if it's different than what's on your tax return. So if you're
Okay,
just
so that
your tax return, and if you're using the information that they put if you did get tax money from the previous year, then that will go out automatically. If not, you have to actually, and we don't know, they're telling us we have to apply with the IRS, or they're going to have something on the IRS site, which is not there yet, to put in your banking information.
Okay. So let me make sure I'm understanding this. So bear with me. I know you've had a long day.
I have. I'm so sorry. And I've got the small business program in my head because we've been going over that all day today.
Yeah. So when I think you stated it at the beginning, but I want to go back. So, because these are a few questions that I've heard. What if I have moved since I filed my last tax return? What if my bank information has changed? So, can you tell me? I've heard some answers, but I know you've been reading it from cover to cover, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I know that you have, when you and I talked, you've got some really accurate information.
Well, moving shouldn't make a big difference because they want to direct deposit. They don't want to do paper checks. So if you have different banking information, this is what we are trying to find out. They're telling us that we have to contact them, but they haven't actually put any sort of link or anything on the site.
The IRS.
The IRS, yeah. You are going to have to give that banking information to the IRS because they'll be the ones that are divvying out the direct deposits. So if you had filed a tax return in 18 or 19 and you already had direct deposit information in there, that is what they're going to use unless you contact them and give them your new information.
Okay. So they're going to use that banking. What if somebody did have it mailed to them instead of, if you were somebody that always pays your taxes, like we've done this, a lot of times we will just mail in a check. And so we didn't get a tax return back. So we do have our banking on it. But I was just wondering, I heard when they were delivering it, I was listening to someone, and what I had heard was they were saying that if you didn't, they would mail it to you. But you're saying right now that's not clear.
Well, they're saying they don't want to do paper checks. They want to do direct deposit. I feel they're going to have to do some paper checks because I think some people aren't going to want to give their banking information.
Okay. So your recommendation would be to go to what is the IRS's website?
IRS.gov. IRS.gov, and really for all of this information, if you go to irs.gov/coronavirus, that will detail out everything we've been talking about tonight as far, as much information as we have right now.
Okay.
And any changes, that would be the site you want to go to because that's going to be updated first. There's a lot of information that's coming from random sites, so the irs.gov is probably the best site to go to.
Okay. So if they don't, so it sounds like if you have a bank account and for some reason you did not have it set up to be auto transferred, it's in your best interest to go on this website and stay tuned and make sure that you put your banking information in. If you happen to, I guess, believe it or not, you and I both know, working in the banking industry, there's a lot of people that don't have a bank account. And that's what I was thinking. If you don't have a bank account, then you definitely are going to be somebody that always got the check mailed to you.
Yeah. And like I said, what it reads is that they will direct deposit. They won't do the paper checks. So I, you know, I don't know if that means if you don't get a banking account, they won't give it to you, or if they will come up with a secondary plan to mail out certain checks. And I think the latter. I think that they will come up with a plan to mail out checks if somebody wants it that way. I think really the intention was to get it to people quickly as they
Okay.
could, and that's why they wanted the direct deposit information.
Okay. So that sounds really good. And then if somebody has not reported their taxes in a long time, they're going to have to look into doing that. And
Yeah, and the good news there, because I have plenty of people I've worked with that haven't filed taxes.
yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of common. I have clients that, you know, either things are tough and they didn't want to have to pay the money. And so,
Right.
because
Well, and
2019 was only needed to be filed. It's not even needed to be filed till April 15th. So 2018, I mean, my guess is there's people that haven't filed their 2018.
right. So normally they would want you to go back wherever you left off and file all of those tax returns to catch up. Especially, you know, if you have things that are pulling through, depreciation or, you know,
Yeah.
leftover things that you want to pull through. But again, the way that it reads, you only have to have either 2018 or 2019.
Okay.
So, you know, that's the only thing I would worry
Okay.
about right now.
That's great to know. So in only one of them, so then you could kind of even make the decision which one looks better.
Right. Right.
And I mean, that's pretty cool. Normally
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Well, and the good news is they're allowing, if you haven't filed, they're allowing you to file. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. They could have said only for people who have filed their taxes, you know. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. But it is tied to the taxes, and we don't have an answer yet as far as if that is pending right now, if they will or won't, how they're going to count it on our taxes, if it'll be a gift or not.
Right. I don't think I could pull things up. If you go on to the website that I gave you, the irs.gov/coronavirus, which on my Facebook page, I'm going to have all of the links and things that I've been talking about. And my Facebook page is just SmartLink Financial.
Okay, SmartLink Financial.
Or at SmartLink Financial. But if you go on that site, I believe it's like 3/4 down, it will talk about whether they're going to consider it a gift or taxable. So yeah, I'll have that. I'll have different links that you can go into and just read all the information that we've been reading. So.
Okay, let me type that in right now in the chat, just so people can see it, especially if people are going to replay. So we can reach you at SmartLink Financial.
That's my Facebook page. You know, you could just put the little at SmartLink Financial.
I should have had my keyboard here.
And then I'll give you my email, so if somebody has questions, they can email me. Tell me when you're ready. You froze up, I think.
Oh, did I? Okay. That's okay. You keep talking and it won't show me. Okay.
And then my email is just cb@SmartLink Financial.
Okay. Okay, so that's great to know. .com?
Yes, .com.
Okay. So hold on here. I've got to go.
So I just want to read this to you. So it says, how will the IRS know where to send my payment? The vast majority of people do not need to take any action. The IRS will calculate and automatically send the economic impact payment to those eligible. For people who have already filed their 2019 tax returns, the IRS will use this information to calculate the payment amount. For those who have not yet filed their return for 2019, the IRS will use information from their 2018 tax filing to calculate the payment. The economic impact payment will be deposited directly into the same banking account reflected on the return.
Okay.
If they don't have your direct deposit information, what can I do? In the coming weeks, Treasury plans to develop a web-based portal for individuals that provide their banking information to the IRS online, so that individuals will receive payments immediately as opposed to checks in the mail.
Okay.
And then it does say, you asked me if someone doesn't typically file a return, meaning they, maybe don't have enough money or they don't make enough where they have to. It says, yes, the IRS will use the information on the SSA 1099 or RRB 1099 to generate economic impact payments to recipients. This includes senior citizens, Social Security recipients, and railroad retirees.
Okay, awesome, because that was something I was thinking about for a lot of people that I've seen through it. So they will use the information from there and the banking information from there, which
Right.
I think they pretty much require them all to do direct deposit. So yeah, so okay, that's really great. So now my next question is, and it goes with the email kind of scam. I went on my personal page and shared, but can you address that a little bit? Because what you will not see from the IRS. So this email, and if you looked closely and you're used to looking at things, I share and kind of show a real life one because it's nice to see that. Dan got it yesterday, literally. It literally just came yesterday. So that tells me that, and what I'm imagining, knowing, and I'm sure you know a lot from fraud for banking and checks and all the things we see. Somehow I'm thinking they basically have a link to have them, that it's from the IRS and they need them to confirm their information. So I believe that they're going to probably use that information for either identity theft or even somehow figuring out how they're going to get their checks. I don't know. There could be one of two ways.
Well, first of all, the IRS is never going to email you. So yeah, you definitely want to watch out for that. Also, I know there's going to be scams coming out where people are calling you saying that they need to collect your information over the phone. Don't give any of your personal information over the phone, because it has nothing to do with, they already have your information. The only information they wouldn't have is your new banking information. And as I just read, they are going to, in the next couple of weeks, be putting something on the site so you can go directly into the government irs.gov site. That's the only place that I would be giving out any of that information.
Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb. And then also, just in the past, it's like banks are not going to call you to confirm your information. If you get any calls like that, call the 1-800 number directly or call your local bank. IRS does not call you. They don't have the time to go around calling people or emailing them. And not to mention that, but like even what dawned on me is a lot of people don't put their email on their tax returns. So the fact that they're getting your emails, that's a huge red flag.
Let me give you one more website. If you do think you find a scam, or there's a scam like what happened to you coming across your email, there's actually a site with the FBI that you can report it to, and they want you to report it for specifically people that are trying to put some kind of scam together involving COVID-19 stimulus package. So you're supposed to contact the FBI, and the website is www. I believe it's ic3.gov. And I will look that up again and put that on my site as well, and you can put it on yours. But they should report it there. There's also, let's see, what did they?
That's a really good point, Christal. And actually, I'm going to go tell Dan that, because I think sometimes those of us that maybe do catch it, you just think, oh, cool, no big deal. But we want to make sure that we're doing our part. And so that is great. I didn't think of that.
Well, because if we don't report it, they won't be able to catch them. And if we report it, they'll be able to start tracking and shutting these people down. There's also, let's see, it said, any kind of fraud that's involving payment of your federal taxes. So because people are going to probably be filing soon and may have to file some past taxes, if anything comes up that is out of the ordinary, you can report that to the Treasury Inspector General for the Tax Administration, and that link is www.treasury.gov/cares.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that's great. I'm telling you, you must have an ice cream headache.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel I started off kind of maybe made it kind of confusing because my brain is full of information.
Yeah. So is there anything else on that one that you think we haven't covered, or anything that is important for or you've been hearing questions?
No, I think, like I said, the very best thing to do is go to that link, the irs.gov/coronavirus, coronavirus. That's going to have the most updated information for that. If you haven't filed your tax return, I would do that if you want to get the money quickly. As soon as I hear if it will be taxable or it won't be taxable or part will be taxable, I'll let you know.
Okay.
That's still unclear right now. And as far as the other programs, I think we're going to talk about those on the next one. But there are possibilities for independent contractors, so proprietors, to also apply.
Okay. Okay, that's good. And what would be considered a contractor or independent? Like, is that even, like, without a better word, I'm thinking like an Uber driver or?
Yep.
Okay.
Could be an Uber driver, could be a realtor, could be a contractor. Anybody who has an independent business.
Okay. And then here's another question. So if somebody is not necessarily laid off, but they have dropped their hours. I'm even thinking of whoever it is. Is there something they can? I know in the past when there have been things that have happened like this, unemployment had a special caveat. This was back, I'm thinking like 2009, 2010. There was something that they could apply for, like a supplemental. Do you know anything? Have you heard of anything like that?
I don't know of anything like that, but that's not as much my area, so I haven't checked into it.
Okay.
I think you can go to, I'll find some links for you. I think even workforceservices.com
Okay.
or .org, or but I could look some things up for you.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. And then, shoot, I had another question and it just went out of my head.
The one that you and I talked about before regarding deferred payments to
Yes, the
mortgage.
mortgage. Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one. So that is also changing. You know, they're trying to come up with better program, or a better program all the time. But a lot of people were talking about deferred payments and thinking that payments, your mortgage payment, would be put onto the back of the loan, meaning you wouldn't have to pay them. And there are possibilities for private lenders to do their own program, but anybody who has a Fannie Mae, a Freddie Mac, or an FHA loan, the current program is what they call a forbearance. And what that means is if you're in trouble and you contact your servicer, so it's not automatic, you have to actually contact your servicer and see what they will do to work with you. But what the government's asking them to do is not report it to your credit bureau. Okay, so they won't report you late. They won't charge you late fees. And I believe currently they're talking about allowing you to go 12 months without making payments, where they won't report you late and they won't charge those late fees. Now, what that actually means is those payments don't go away. They will accumulate. And then when you get your job back or you run out of the 12 months, you're going to have to, they'll basically divide those payments up over a period of time, and you will have to pay them back.
Okay.
So the thing that I want to make sure people understand is that could mean, if you go too long, that you have quite a large payment on top of your regular mortgage payment that you'll have to start making. So, you know, we're all trying to work towards having them do a real deferment, which would mean putting the funds on the back of the loan, but they haven't approved that yet. So
Okay, so that's not approved. That's that you and I had talked about that, and that's the misinformation I've been hearing. And can you give people like a couple of just basic tips when you are, because what I heard you say is it's important to contact your lender to let them know. They're not going to just know that you are having, because not every, I mean, in the reality, there are people that are working. There are people that are continuing to be able to pay, and this isn't necessarily something that is causing a problem. I mean, my sister's a nurse. There's people out there I know. So sometimes you just think that people that they're going to automatically know. But you and I have been around long enough. It's super important for you to call them. But then,
and here's the reason, because if you watch the news, they're saying that this is a blanket program, but if you watch in the little bar that goes across the bottom, they'll show different lenders. Most are doing the same thing, But if you remember, I think there was Wells Fargo and several of them that were initially allowing 90 days, and then Bank of America said, no, we want to take it 30 days at a time. So each servicer can create a different program. They're all, I hate the word leaned on, but they're all being asked to kind of do something across the board. But some of these servicers have something different set up. So you need to call them, and it might even be something better that they would offer to you. But
Yeah.
it's in your best interest to make sure you call and work it out with them.
So now, and that leads me to car payments and credit cards. Do you have any, have you heard anything regarding car payments, or do you have any advice? I know in the past what my advice was, but I thought since you're kind of really reading and hearing a lot of it, and
I haven't seen anything really definitive on either one of those, but again, it's always in your best interest to call and work with them, because a lot of them already have programs set up even before the COVID-19. They have different payment plans they can work with you on. I think right now they are putting other things in place, just like the mortgage companies are, where they won't report you to the credit bureaus to hurt your credit during this time. They'll give you extended pay plans. And a lot of them, you know, for instance, with mortgages, the typical forbearance plan used to be however many payments you were late, they would split it over 5 months. Now they're splitting it over 12 months. And as time goes on, that number may also grow to bring the payment down, because the longer the term, the smaller your payment's going to be. I think the same thing is probably going to happen with the car payments and the credit card companies, but you need to call them.
well, and in rules in general, some of the advice I've always given my clients as a financial advisor is everything call. Make sure you look at your bank statements and see, are you being charged a fee? Even if we weren't in this, these are some tips, and I'm sure you do the same. But what I have seen people save themselves money is, first of all, check all your bank statements. Are there any extra charges being charged with the banks that you're with? Sometimes people have 5 different banks and they don't even realize when it's all added up, it's like $80 a month. I have literally seen that, or $100. That's a quick way to call them and say, can we, you know, is there something you can do to waive this fee? Most of them will at least waive it for 30 days. A lot of them will try to find you a program that will work. Same with credit cards. If you call them, a lot of times there's always a 12-month special, and then something falls off, and depending on if you've made your payments or whatever, they'll give you a rate. So my thing always is to be in touch, even when we're not in a crisis, that like once a year you should check in on your credit cards. You should make sure, we don't always look super close at our bank statements, but take a look at the last 1 month. We found 3 automatics that I wasn't even supposed to be charged. One was for like $11, but we had a lot going on in our family medically. And so I have some of these things that come out for my business. So my husband just thought it was one of the fees, and they wrongfully charged me, and we found 3 of them. So that's another tip I would say right now is, the good news is people are at home. A lot of people are at home, and those people that aren't like us, that aren't like working, and this actually has created a lot more activities for us. You have a little bit of time, and so that would be a big suggestion I would give, is look at your bank statements, look at every credit card, know what your interest rate is, look at all your car loans, and of course your mortgage, and then call them. Because a lot of times they will, especially And it was so funny. I was thinking this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, Christal. It was almost when you started to say 2008. Wait, no, 2018. I'm like, that is weird. This stuff happened in 2008, 2009, and 2010, and now we're like, go back to your tax return on 2018 and 19, and now we're in 2020. I was like, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that numbers before.
Yeah.
But doing that is a really good thing. What I had seen in the past when we walked through that real crisis, because it was a longer one and they didn't catch it right away, was a lot of places I would get on the phones with my clients, and a lot of them were they qualified for something if they had lost their job. They sometimes have hardship programs that they won't charge you. So even if you're not in a hardship, they sometimes during these time frames they want to keep you, and they want to make sure you're going to make your payments. So a lot of times they'll reduce for a special on all your credit cards, even cash, like transfers over to another card. So those are a great way to save money. And then that was my last question I was going to ask, and it was around mortgage, but it was, what are your thoughts about refining right now for some people? Let's say that you don't have an income issue, you're working from home, you're being paid. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to be careful how I say it, because I don't want to put fear out there with people. I feel like they're probably, everything that's going on is probably, as we know, going to affect our market, our real estate market. So this last year, we had an economic boom. We had skyrocketing equity in our property. We had good appreciation for several years. So if you have a high value right now, which you still should, we haven't been seeing foreclosures coming in yet or anything like that, I would say now is the time to protect that equity, whether that be by taking cash out, if you can refinance and take the cash out and maybe put it into something that's a safer avenue, or you can look at home equity lines of credit. That's another way that you can at least get approved now while the equity is high, but not necessarily have to use that money. It's just there if you need it. There's also, and I think we're going to go into this in another conversation, so I don't want to get too carried away, but for people that are 62 and older, there's also the possibility of getting a reverse mortgage, and right now is a great time to do that because that is definitely equity driven. So you have to have at least 50% equity in your property generally. That could alleviate a lot of stress because there's ways that you can either get a monthly payment or not make a payment. So that would be very helpful. But I would say if you are concerned about what's going on for the next several months, and you don't have a lot of savings, but you do have equity, I would try to protect it right now.
Okay. And what are the rates on mortgage lending right now? Are they up? Are they down?
Well, they're still, incredibly low, in the 3s and the 4s, depending on the product and the program. It has changed quite a bit. That's another reason I would say, if you're thinking about doing it, to go ahead and get applying now, because they are making it harder to get the loans. They're trying to reduce their risk through all of this as well. So the credit scores they're starting to ask for higher credit scores, and more tax information and things like that. But there's still great programs right now. We've got, all the conventional programs, FHA programs. Really the things that have been frozen or taken away this last couple of weeks have been more of the outside of the box or really low credit score driven programs, things like that.
Okay, that's good to know. And I just had a friend, she'd only had her house for 10 months, but it was a higher interest rate. It was like 7.4, something like that. She just refied and one thing was the property value had gone up because there's been such a boom, and she lives in an area where it's really been going up, and so she was able to reduce it, get her interest rate from 7 point that, because I think that was what she was able to do at that time, and she reduced it down to I think like 3.5 she was telling me, and she saved herself $900 a month. So I was like, so depending on what your interest rates are and things, and are you doing personal, that kind of stuff right now? Are you doing refis and mortgages?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm licensed. With mortgages, you have to be licensed in every state. So my company is licensed in Utah and in Washington State. As far as business lending or commercial loans, I can do that in any state. But for conventional residential mortgages, it's Utah and Washington State. The other thing to think about, though, is, refinancing. I think right now, it definitely, if you have a higher interest rate, you're going to help yourself by reducing your payment. So that's going to bring your debt load down. To also take a look at, if you have a lot of credit cards or you even have car payments or other installment loans, you can consolidate all of those. And that, once we usually look at that, I mean, that can make a huge difference in what you're paying out every month. The other thing to think about for people who are maybe a little more risk driven is, if you have equity now and you can take it out and protect that before values go down and you lose the equity, you can then be ready when there are going to be really good deals out there on real estate and on stock purchases and things like that, because everything is always going to come back, right? I mean, we may see things drop down for a while, but for those that have the money to put back into the market to get those deals, I think that's also, it's going to be good for some people.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. So I know it's a little after 8. I'm not seeing any other questions, but people can send me questions, so we can have them ready for our next one, which we're going to do on Tuesday. I will share some of that information. I was just seeing if I had any questions. I don't see any, but let me double check.
Yeah. There is something chat. Let me see if there's a...
It's me.
Or you put it in there. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a lot of great information, and I have been getting a lot of responses from people that wanted to be on, so it will be recorded. I'm trying to figure out how to get it where we can put it in as an episode. I'm going to have my guy help me with that. Okay, so put that.
I'm just putting the Facebook and my email.
Okay, so that's awesome. Okay, there it is. And I thank you so much, Christal, for making time, because you've helped even educate me. And that's why I have such a passion when I start to see stuff like this, because you and I have both been in the industry for a really long time. And anytime something happens of a panic or something like this, sometimes people rush out and do things that are really hard to take back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel, I know it's a scary time and it's a very sad time with everything that's going on, but I also see me personally a strange beauty in it, and of what's going on with people connecting, getting to connect with their family, even all of the things that we're learning as far as how to be better prepared in case something like this happens again. I mean, there really will be some good things to come out of it. It's just hanging on until we get through
Yeah.
parts, you know. But I do think that hopefully it will be shorter than what some are saying. So
Yeah. Well, and I think I always look at it like this in all the scenarios. I mean, I've been around in the industry since 1997. So like you've seen a lot of ups and downs, the dot-com boom and all of those different things. And one thing that you always see is it does rebound. And so, but one thing you have to remember is it is so it is the president of our United States job, our governor, whoever your governor is, like ours is Governor Newsom, and he is doing his job, which is if they have information that is projected and they don't, and it's foreseen to be further out, they have to say it, you know. So there are things that can happen. You and I believe in God, and you know, we've been praying. Every person I know, there is prayer, and so these things can shift around, and so we have to make sure that we are taking it in bites. And that's why I wanted to produce this and bring this to people, along with all the other ones I'm doing where people can bring in their expertise, because my hope is to bring tools and things. And then I will add, just to give a little bit, most people know that I'm a financial advisor, and when everything hit back in 2008, 9, and 10, I would definitely say, before you make any decisions, if you did get laid off, if you're thinking about your 401k, any of those things, even in your investments, make sure that you are reaching out to a financial advisor, your financial advisor. But I will tell you, and this is what most people don't realize, when it comes to your company's 401k, you have a 401k through your company, but your company is the one that has it with that company. So if you don't know the right questions to ask. So I have always gotten on and done a 3-way call with my clients and had them get on the phone to the customer service. And they don't give you information unless you ask the right questions. And I have seen this over and over, and people will sometimes end up getting a huge tax gouge. They will end up doing things that will cause consequences. So for an example, and this, I'm giving it a very 1,000-foot view, I'm not diagnosing anyone, just to be clear, but one thing is, most people don't know that if you roll it out into an IRA, you have different rules and regulations. And so there are different things that you can do with that. And there's a lot of, even if you are not laid off, the, when all of this went down in 2008, 9, and 10, they changed a lot of companies' laws where there's a large portion that you can actually roll into an IRA. So I always personally think that that is a super great thing to do on multiple levels, because not all 401ks have as many options to keep yourself diversified. So sometimes you get hit harder, and this is why they made the rule. And it also gives you the ability, if something happens and you need to pull it, you can, and you don't have to take the tax hit. You can wait and do it on your following year taxes. So there's a lot of things that make sense to consult somebody, and no one on the 401k financial institution that holds it. So for example, if you're with Fidelity, right, you work for a company, no one else will give you that. They're customer service reps. They're not licensed. They don't hold licenses. So it's like the difference between calling a mortgage company and talking to a mortgage lender that is licensed like you. You are licensed to give information. They're not going to say to you, well, there is an answer, but I can't give it to you. Normally, you do not get that when you get customer service. So a big recommendation, whether it is your mortgage lender that is experienced or a financial advisor, all of us give complimentary evaluations. And so that is something that I just wanted to throw out there, because I saw so many heartbreaking things that actually made them not recovering fast enough, because out of panic, they pulled their whole 401k out. They had to claim it on their income the next year. They didn't know. And it was like this ongoing with their tax. I mean, I know you saw a lot of it too. So I just,
well, that's why I say I think I don't want to put fear out there. I never like to do that, but I do, because we have experienced it from those days. My feeling is be safe rather than sorry. Be proactive rather than wait and see. So if you have an opportunity to talk to a financial advisor, you're welcome to talk to me. I do consultation all the time, looking over all of, what they have and what we may be able to do, whether that's doing something in a particular loan or helping them just get free information to go a different direction, helping them with these stimulus packages. We're not going to be making money off of that. It's just free information to help people out. But I know too many people that they freeze when this type of situation happens, and that's when you lose all of your 401k, or you wait too long, and now the comps that are going to be on somebody's appraisal are going to be really low, because now there's a lot of foreclosures happening and things like that. So it doesn't hurt to just reach out and talk to somebody and see what your options are. And I think that's the best way to go, because, like even in talking about consolidation, let's say I could get somebody a line of credit off of the equity in their home, and we paid off all their credit cards and their housing debts, and we're talking about paying 3 to 5% versus credit cards that are in the 20% range sometimes. I mean, we just want to look at doing the best we can to get everybody in a position to make it through this. And then we will come out the other side, and things are going to get back to normal someday. Things do always come back, and you'll be in a much better position instead of, losing everything. The other thing, and you know much more about this, but if you do have a 401k and it hasn't decreased too much, I mean, things were looking better in the market, so you can sometimes get loans that are at a very, you're paying yourself back interest, right? You know more than I do. right? So
So I would say that I would not want to comment on any of that. It's a little bit of a, that would be an offline conversation that we could get some really facts and information on my part. So I am licensed in all states. I can help people with that because there are some yeses and there are some nos. There's some
yeah,
good ones and then there's ones, so you definitely want to know that what's going on with that before you because this is my take on it and this is what I saw. I have seen people take 401k loans and then get laid off and they have to now pay it back and get a tax consequence where they maybe could have had an equity line if they needed to tap into it. They could have had something else. So with it's so uncertain right now with certain things, mine would be you would definitely want to have somebody that is a financial planner and advisor that can look at your personal situation because what I saw so many times is many people didn't need to do that. When I took a look at other stuff, and that's why I've always worked really closely with good, trusted mortgage, somebody that's really good in mortgage, all lending. That's why I was so excited you would come on because you are somebody that is in that. Good CPAs, good trust attorneys, because they all spill over, but sadly, not everybody is equal. But I always
yeah,
say a financial advisor is a great quarterback. That's what I've always looked at is like I'm the quarterback and see where to throw the ball. But I like to be on the team and help move them to
right,
places. So they don't, sometimes what happens is they get super confused and then they don't communicate everything to that person. So it doesn't mean that that person is not doing their job, but they got nervous, they didn't give all the information. So
right,
if you have a good financial advisor, I would say give them a call. If you don't and you only have a 401k, I've told everybody I'm offering a 20 to 30 minute free consultation no matter what. You don't have to do business with me or not. That's how I ran my business back during that time. I always wanted to be a resource. Like,
yeah. I actually offer a 30-minute consultation on my website.
okay,
There's a
okay,
link to do that as well. So,
that's
or
awesome.
just email me. And obviously it's a little busy right now, but I am still, my turn times are good. So I'm happy
Awesome.
to just help if I can.
That's great. I didn't think about asking you that. So you do 30 minutes too. So that is so awesome. And I'm going to let you go because we've been on now for over an hour and I know you're probably exhausted and she's in Utah time. So
So an hour
that's
ahead.
mountain time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like hopefully I look a little ragged tonight. So.
You know what? I am so, hope I'm sure everybody will understand because I know you were even on conference calls today and it was hot off the press. So like I've heard certain people say, oh, I know all that. And I know enough to know, and you and I have been talking offline, that that's not necessarily true. And some of the stuff that comes through the news and the media,
Right,
they're
right.
reporting it and it's sometimes, and they're interviewing somebody that they're giving it normally in a very broad, very like 10,000-foot view. So it
Mhm.
doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong, but when you look at an individual, you're now taking it way down to the 10-foot view and,
Yeah,
and individualizing it. And so you and I both know that, and we have gone through everything we've seen a lot of sad situations that could have been prevented. So that is why I have such a passion to bring all different resources on, but
yeah,
especially I know we can talk about it. I mean, I think we will talk about a little more like the personal side of it and how with different things, even with depression, but I really wanted to hit this part. Some people that are seeing me are probably like, oh, we're seeing a whole new side of Jodi, because when we go into this, most people don't always see us in that mode, but it is that
right.
mode of sometimes we have to say things a certain way because of our licenses, and but more than that, when you see these things, when you can't help people and it's now, you can give them a little bit, and it always is from panic. I mean, it always is from panic. And I've seen people literally, I mean, I could just tell stories, and I'm sure you could. And so my biggest part is take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
Most, you know, mortgage lenders, real estate agents, most of them are working, that I know, like they're taking calls, they're doing video chats. I'm working, a lot of people in my industry are still working. A lot of us were already virtual employees. A lot of us have moved over to that. So we have been able to be up and running. So
yeah, that's right. Don't panic, but be proactive.
yes.
Don't, you know, I guess one of my biggest tips is when we're dealing with funds that are coming from the government, you want to go to the government sites. So don't go to all these other sites that are just, I mean, what they're doing is they're reading what's on the government site, and then they're giving their own take on it or their own overview. So if you want the real specific details, you're going to be going to the irs.gov or the Economic Treasury site, and I'll have those links, like I said, on my Facebook page, and we'll talk about it more on the next.
I have one more question that just came to me, and we may put a pin in it if it's really detailed, but it's student loans. I realize, to me, that falls on more the personal side. Could you give like a 30-second basic on what they're doing on student loans right now?
To be honest, I need to read up on that because I know there's been quite a few changes.
Okay. So we will bring that in our second.
Yeah, I'll do that
episode.
for you. I just don't want to give out old information because I know a lot of things are changing, but I will have a lot of good updates too. I'll look for that, and the small business loans and grants that they've put into place. So there's 3
awesome. Yeah.
under the CARES Act. Those are all that's what's going on right now. So okay.
Well, thank you so much. And people can reach out to me, and I'll get questions, and I'll let you know. So we'll be prepared for our next one.
Okay.
So thank you so much. And I just want to let people know that are watching these episodes, I have had a whole lot of people willing, probably because a lot of people, all their stuff is canceled. So tomorrow I have an interview with Althea. I'm looking over here. I don't want to say her last name wrong because it's Althea McIntyre, and she really helps people in the career side, and even in a lot of the independent things. So I'll be interviewing her tomorrow, and I have more and more of them that are coming. So I just want to let you guys know to check out Coffee and Dreams with Jodi and Friends. I kind of hadn't fully been using my Facebook page, but I'm reactivating it now. So I will have events in there and all of the things, and we'll be doing them on Zoom. And then I will have the episodes out kind of more in like a vlog podcast style coming out really soon. So and it really is just, I kind of did like a special edition because and I was really surprised how many of my friends and people I know are making time to do it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think it's, wonderful that you're getting the information out there too. So to help.
So
you always want to help. That's awesome.
Yes. So thank you so much. And you put your information in here, so if people are rewatching it, they can see the comments when you log on and rewatch it. And then if anybody if for some reason they don't see it there and they want it, you can always reach out to me. You can type a comment in to Coffee and Dreams with Jodi and Friends. You can send me a PM through Jodi Gambini. So thank you all, and thank you to our guest Christal, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. So take care.
Okay, have a good night.